Red Hair in Japan by Esther Mizrachi. August 25th. Dad had that look on his face this morning at breakfast. The slightly sheepish look he gets every time he tells us news we don't want to hear. I knew before he opened his mouth that it was happening again. Our family was temporarily relocating. "Kids, Marshall and I sat down yesterday," he began, and then paused to clear his throat. Marshall is Dad's boss, and the news always begins with a meeting with Marshall. I've never met him, but I picture Marshall as some sort of giant, unnaturally tall, with a deep, commanding voice. I picture Dad as silent at these meetings, and I harbor a permanent grudge against Marshall. Of course, I know this is unrealistic because Dad approaches his work with strong dedication and adores the travel part of it. He says it's healthy for us to see other places, but when he gives us this kind of news, we all treat it like a directive from Marshall. Like Dad has nothing at all to do with the decision. "We're going to have another year abroad," my father announced. Kyle and I groaned at the same time, and I felt Mum's sympathetic gaze on us. To Mum, moving around the world is an adventure. It doesn't affect her much. She's a novelist and can work anywhere, but she hates what it does to us. To give you some background, we have been back home in England for only 2 months after being in the United States for a year. I had a blissful summer reconnecting with my friends Gemma and Emily and was looking forward to the school year here, at home. "Where?" Kyle asked. That was typical Kyle. He spoke in groans and one-word sentences. "Japan," my father said. Kyle and I stared at him, speechless. "Japan? How were we going to fit in Japan?" August 27th. I told Gemma and Emily the news this morning. We were in Emily's backyard, lying on the grass, staring up at the clouds. "No," Gemma said. "Not again." "Oh, Cat," Emily said. She got up, pulled me to my feet, and gave me a big hug. I blinked away my tears. Gemma got up too, and joined the hug, sandwiching me in between them. "What am I going to do in Japan for a whole school year?" I asked them. "Well, at least you've been through this before," Gemma said. "Yes, but the United States was more like England. Japan is so very different." "I'm sure that you'll be fine," Gemma said, trying to reassure me. "They'll think you're the coolest," Emily agreed. I sighed. It was nice of them to try to make me feel better, but it wasn't working. September 4th. It has been a whirlwind week of packing and goodbyes. I've been walking around in a trance. Mostly, I feel sad to leave my friends, sad to be the stranger in a new school. "What's going on, Kat?" Dad asked me this morning as we had our last breakfast at home. We had to head to the airport before lunch. "I don't want to go to Japan. I know that I'm going to stick out. It was hard enough being the outsider when we were in the US. Now that I'd started talking, I couldn't stop myself. I'm tired of not knowing the games that everyone plays and not getting the inside jokes. I'm tired of people asking me to say things just to hear the way I pronounce words, and talking about my hair. Oh, Kat, I'm so sorry you feel that way. Maybe it won't be so bad," Mum said. "How are you feeling about the move, Kyle?" she asked. "Same," Kyle said, adding nothing to the conversation as usual. He had one advantage over me. You couldn't hear his accent with his single-syllable answers. "Kids, I told you. You're going to an international school in Japan. The kids are from dozens of countries. You will fit in just fine. Dad emphasized the words international school as though it was some kind of superhero that was sure to save us. Kyle groaned. There was a knock on the door, and I excused myself to get it. It was Emily and Gemma, stopping in to say goodbye. We went outside and took a selfie, which came out great. September 6th. I am barely over my jet lag and haven't even managed to unpack my bags, but tomorrow is my first day at my new school. Class has already been in session for 2 weeks, so the other kids have all had a chance to settle in, which makes me doubly uncomfortable. I tried to sleep but just couldn't seem to, so I went to the kitchen for some warm milk and found Kyle there pouring milk into a pot. "Want?" he asked me, and I nodded, grateful to have him here despite his monosyllabic conversation. As we waited for the milk to warm up, Kyle said the longest sentence I've heard him say all year. It left me slightly stunned. Every time we move like this, I panic. I think that everyone is going to hate me on sight and treat me as though I just got here from Mars. "I know," I said after I got over the shock of my brother actually expressing himself. "At least you look normal. You don't have hair like mine." "Normal?" Kyle raised his voice and exclaimed. "I'm way taller than everyone my age, almost as tall as Dad. Do you know how tall the average Japanese man is? 5'2". I'm almost a foot taller than that." I nodded, sipped my milk, and moaning patted my hair. Well, my hair is not exactly nondescript. It was true. My hair is fiery red, and it curls in every direction imaginable. Kyle sighed. "There's nowhere for us to hide, that's for sure." September 7th. Before school, I bundled my hair into a bun. I just couldn't bear to be the new girl with all that red hair. Mum looked at me strangely, but she didn't say anything. One of Dad's assistants had coordinated with the school and had gotten uniforms for Kyle and me. The shirt was white, the skirt a dark green plaid. To my relief, the sweater was navy blue. I've had to wear colours that really clashed with my hair in the past. Orange once, which was the worst. My classroom had group tables rather than desks, which means I have to sit facing other kids. Ms. Hirota, my new teacher, introduced herself and showed me to an empty table. Pretty soon, 3 other kids sat down. I just stared down at my hands, afraid to look up into their eyes. I tried to make myself breathe normally, but my heart seemed like a hammer in my chest. Once everyone was seated, Ms. Hirota said, "Please welcome our newest student, Kat, from Manchester, England. Kat, please come up and tell us about yourself." My legs were shaking as I walked to the front of the room. I clenched my fists in nervousness, but then I tried to force myself to be calm, and I unclenched my fists. "Hi," I said, and I looked for the first time at the kids in the room. I saw blonde hair, brown hair, and black hair, but no wildly curly red hair. I felt as if the hairbands I had put in were straining to hold my hair back. Impulsively, I blurted out, "I'm pretty nervous to be the new kid. My family just got the news less than 2 weeks ago that we would be moving to Japan. We got here just the other day, and I am not even unpacked yet. Anyway, I love to read. I want to be a writer someday, and, can't think of anything else to say." The students clapped, and my face burned. I felt myself wishing that I was more like Kyle, who would have said, "Hey," and then strode back to his desk. At lunch, I continued to keep my eyes down as I got a tray of unrecognizable food. I walked to an empty table and sat down, but within a few minutes a girl sat next to me. She had skin like milky coffee and eyes that were the colour of the tiger's eye pendant Mum had given me. "Hi, I'm Lydia," she said with a wide smile. Her speech had a musical lilt to it. "I'm new here too. My family moved from India a month ago." "Nice to meet you," I said. I had no idea what else to say, but Lydia was a talker. She told me she was nervous coming here also, but that all the kids are really friendly. When the bell rang, Lydia and I walked to class together. On the way, I saw Kyle's class on their way to lunch. He stuck out taller than everyone else. We rolled our eyes at each other. September 8th. At lunch today, Lydia introduced me to some other kids. Everyone was from someplace else. There were kids from China, Germany, the United States, Sweden, and Saudi Arabia. We all spoke English to each other. Everyone had a different accent, but their English was good. Ling, a tiny girl who wore her dark hair in 2 braids, said, "Kat, you are lucky that English is your first language. I think in Chinese, so sometimes it is hard to say what I am thinking," she laughed. Roland, a stocky boy with long blonde hair, said, "I know what you mean, Ling. I was the star English student in my school in Germany, but here I have trouble making one good sentence." "I am okay with the English. It is fun to learn," Adia said. "But what I miss is favourite foods. In my country, I eat a falafel sandwich every Sunday. They are sold on every street corner." "What food will you miss from England?" Ling asked me. "Tea and scones," I said without a moment of thought. I described the buttery pastry to the kids. I also told them about clotted cream, a rich, delicious spread that we ate with scones. They all leaned in, eyes wide. I realized then that my unhappiness had subsided. September 10th. Today, feeling brave, I did not pin my hair back. As we walked out the door, Kyle looked at me and nodded. "Good," he said. As it turned out, my hair is no big deal. Lydia said I looked like a character from her favourite movie. At lunch, I showed everyone the selfie of me and Gemma and Emily. "These are my best friends," I said. That began a conversation about the people everyone missed back home. As we talked, I realized Dad was right. I still missed home, but I could fit in here just fine. We are all very different from each other, but underneath it all, we are quite the same. As we walked back to our classroom after lunch, we passed Kyle's class. I tried to catch his eye, but Kyle didn't see me. He was talking to a boy who was almost as tall as him. The boy also had a sparkle in his eyes. I watched as he gave my brother a high five.